applicators make curing a yeast infection easier. Precisely. Only from Gynolotion, the right cure, such a relief.
If color could meet care face to face, if you could replenish while you cover, nurture while you color, you'd care yourself beautiful. Now Clarion treats your face to more than color, with skin conditioners, sunscreen, or vitamins. So every day, you can care yourself beautiful. With Clarion, the care company.
Why don't you get in the spirit and come on down and be a part of our audience? For tickets just right to Home Show Tickets, Post Office Box 7723, Burbank, California, 91510-7723, or call 213-520-2302. And make sure and you tell us what day you'd like to be here. We'd like to point out that B. Arthur has told us that the Compassionate Cook, which is what she's going to be promoting at Book Soup, is available in bookstores throughout the country. It really is a good book, and if you're into health, this is something that you should definitely get. Now, on Friday, Will Schreiner and Arsenio Hall will be together. Arsenio has a contest where he's going to be doing his show live from some viewer's house, and the winner gets all that and a trip from Will, who went behind the scenes, and we're going to see it Friday on Home before it happens that evening. Now, tomorrow, Alan Thicke is going to be hosting Home Alone. He's going to show you a look behind the scenes at Barbra Streisand's house and a lot of good other things, so please stay and watch Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with Alan Thicke. I've had a great time Monday and Tuesday. You know, watching talk shows and being a participant as a guest is one thing. To host it is a whole other experience, and I want to thank all the producers, Woody Frazier and Denise and Marty and everybody here. They made it real easy for me. Thanks for being with us on Home Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Alan Thicke. Will Schreiner's coming on with Arsenio Hall. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Today, will a disaster with baby Tyler ruin Casey and Allie's new beginning? Watch Loving tonight. Civil Wars on ABC.
This week, the Pope comes to America. Tonight, American Catholic bishops. If you think they're conservative, you could be surprised. Watch ABC's World News tonight.
Hello, I'm Monica Melpass with Robin Garrison for Action News. Coming up, we'll take you to funeral services for an alleged mobster who was killed on the streets of South Philadelphia. The nation's second woman Supreme Court justice will be sworn in today.
And PGW management fills in for striking workers when residents report smelling gas. Love those stories, and Dave Frankel with the AccuWeather forecast, all coming up next on Action News at noon.
As head baker for Thomas's English Muffins, it's nice to know that my neighbors are getting to taste a whole bunch of our healthy varieties, from honey wheat to oat bran.
Hey, Ned, that's some muffin.
Thomas's English Muffins. There's a baker behind every nook and cranny.
Upland Mortgage can help you if you have credit problems or you don't have credit problems. If you're self-employed or employed, purchasing or refinancing your present home, first and second mortgages. Rates are as low as 5%. I can't think of anything more exciting. This isn't going to continue forever. Sooner or later, something's going to happen to change it. The sooner you refinance, the sooner you'll start saving money. Call Upland now.
Glad to see you resting up, because this summer, you're going to be doing a whole lot of traveling. Summer's the time for AT&T World on sale, with an extra 40% off the usual Reach Out World savings during special hours every Saturday and Sunday through August. There's a world full of people waiting to hear from you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up now. International savings for the way you call. Just another part of the iPlan.
One woman, 92 personalities on the next Oprah Winfrey Show.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Dave Frankel, Monica Malpass, and Robin Garrison.
Good afternoon in the news. Some Delaware Valley youngsters are on their way to see the Pope.
The woman known as the Hollywood Madam says she is innocent of drug and prostitution charges And a couple accused of kidnapping has now been placed on special probation.
But the big story on Action News this noon is funeral services for a reputed mobster. Michael Ciancaglini is being buried today, the victim of gunshot wounds that he received during an alleged mob hit. David Murphy, live on the action cam now with details. David?
This is the Church of the Epiphany in South Philadelphia at 11th and Jackson, and it's a fitting place for the Ciancaglini family to say goodbye to Michael. Residents say his wife grew up in this parish. This funeral today is a punctuation mark, if you will, for a heightening mob war in Philadelphia. There have been 7 mob-related attacks in the last year and a half, 3 of them involving this family. The morning began with a viewing for 31-year-old Michael Ciancaglini at a funeral home on South Broad Street. Most of the 75 to 100 people who showed up weren't talking to reporters. The few who were basically said,
"A wonderful father."
But the Pennsylvania Crime Commission says this husband and father of 3 was also involved in a faction of the Philadelphia mob. Ciancaglini and another man, 31-year-old reputed mobster Joey Merlino, were ambushed last Thursday in the 600 block of Catherine Street in South Philadelphia by 2 gunmen. The assassin's getaway car was found burning a short time later. Several people have been questioned. There have been no arrests. Merlino, who escorted Ciancaglini's widow from the funeral mass, escaped serious injury during the attack. A year and a half ago, Michael Ciancaglini was ambushed outside his South Philadelphia house in what officials described as a warning, possibly aimed at Ciancaglini's brother, who was believed to be more entrenched in the mob. Michael was not hit that time. Last March, that brother, Joseph Ciancaglini, was nearly killed in an ambush of his own at a South Philadelphia diner. But this time, Michael was again the target. Oddly enough, Michael's hit, officials say, may have been in retaliation for Joey's shooting. Officials now believe Michael and Joe had fallen in with different sides in the current war for control of the mob. Joe Ciancaglini, who was shot 3 times in the head, now walks with a walker. Brother Michael Ciancaglini is now dead. Spectators lined the sidewalks here around the church to watch the funeral procession come and go this morning. It's not the first time that they've seen a reputed mob figure buried here. Murdered mob boss Angelo Bruno is from this neighborhood and was also buried out of this same church. Ciancaglini, in the meantime, is being laid to rest at a cemetery in Belmar, New Jersey at this hour, and again, police are still on the hunt for his killers. David Murphy, live at the Action Cam, South Philadelphia.
All right, thank you, David. The case of a woman set on fire in Camden is now a
Funeral services for the victim of an apparent mob hit in South Philadelphia last week. David Murphy reports.
10 men in neat black suits carried Michael Ciancaglini's casket from a South Philadelphia funeral home this morning. 8 black limousines followed the hearse to a nearby Catholic church for Mass. Spectators lined the route, some out of respect.
I heard he was good. He's a hard-working guy.
Others just wanting to witness the latest chapter in South Philadelphia mob lore. This is the same church where they said goodbye to murdered mob boss Angelo Bruno. The locals still haven't forgotten that.
But Bruno had a madhouse here all over. God, it was a madhouse. We had cops from all over the place.
But the Ciancaglini story is particularly tumultuous. It was a year ago March when Michael Ciancaglini, still not officially tied to the mob, was chased inside his South Philadelphia row home by bullets. Gunmen shot out the windows while Michael and his family crouched for cover. At the time, officials thought the gunman intentionally missed, that this was only a warning to Michael's mobster relatives. Then last March, Michael's brother Joseph was shot 3 times in the head at a South Philadelphia diner. Miraculously, he survived. In April, dozens of suspected mob associates showed up at a fundraiser to pay off Joey's medical bills. Then came Thursday's ambush of Michael and another man on Catherine Street. This time, the gunmen were aiming to kill. The Pennsylvania Crime Commission believes Michael was now deep into the ongoing mob war. So they say is Joey Merlino, the man who was wounded in Thursday's attack and who spent today escorting Michael's widow. But the deceased leaves behind more than just his alleged career in crime. He has a wife and 3 young children, one of them just born about 4 months ago. Again and again today we heard,
"A wonderful father."
Some maintained off camera that Michael was never involved with the mob. Officials, though, say he's merely the latest mobster to fall in the latest chapter of Philadelphia's mob war. In South Philadelphia, David Murphy, Channel 6 Action News.
Jury selection's underway today.
Nothing brings it more elegantly or shapes it more beautifully than Anderson windows and patio doors. Live in the light of Anderson windows. Come home to Anderson.
Independence Blue Cross, Pennsylvania Blue Shield, and Jefferson Bank invite you to explore Thomas Jefferson's Philadelphia in a special walking tour. Brochures available at all Jefferson banks. sharper 6. Only on Action News. Action News continues with Scott Palmer, Dave Roberts, Lisa Thomas-Laurie, and Mark Howard.
Hello again. Here are some of the big stories we're following for you tonight on Action News. Police may have some new clues for the motive of a triple murder in North Philadelphia last week. After 6 months of fighting, President Clinton's deficit bill is now the law. And Pope John Paul urges Jamaicans to reject the road to drugs and crime.
And now the details. There are new developments tonight in last week's execution-style murders of 3 women at a North Philadelphia housing project. John Rollins standing by live now at the Cambridge Plaza Projects with the latest on this story. John?
Well, Lisa, it'll be a week ago tomorrow when 3 young women were found executed here at the Cambridge Plaza. That's the PHA high-rise behind me here. Police are investigating a number of leads and motives, among them including the possibility that one of the victims may have been killed because of something she knew and that she was going to testify about in court. They buried 2 of the 3 murder victims today. They were laid to rest here at the Northwood Cemetery. 20-year-old Jeannie Robinson and her 15-year-old cousin, Tanisha Robinson. The 3 were found last Wednesday in Jeannie Robinson's PHA apartment. Each was shot once in the head. Police sources confirmed the youngest victim, Tanisha Robinson, was at the time of her death a subpoenaed witness in a homicide case. Tanisha was the victim that was found in a closet where she had apparently been hiding. Family members we spoke with today say they believe Tanisha was killed in order to silence her. Police say they are looking at that possibility, but are also looking at other motives as well. One law enforcement official told Action News it's possible the primary target in the killing was Tanisha's older cousin, Jeannie, who owed a small drug debt, and that Tanisha was killed because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, not because she was a witness to an earlier crime. Now, we are back live, and as of late this afternoon, it appears to be the leading theory within one branch of law enforcement, that the older cousin was the target and that Tanisha was, by coincidence, a victim. I'm John Rollins, live on the Action Cam in North Philadelphia.
Thank you, John. Funeral services were held today for one of the latest targets caught in an apparent struggle for control of the city's mob. About 100 family members, friends, and associates gathered at the Church of the Epiphany in South Philadelphia to pay respects and farewell to Michael Ciancaglini. Spectators stood outside and lined the route to the cemetery to get a glimpse of those in attendance. Ciancaglini was killed by 2 unknown gunmen after he left a club on Catherine Street on Thursday. Authorities say Ciancaglini was involved in a tug-of-war for control of the mob. Joseph Merlino, another reputed mobster, was wounded in the shooting but later released from the hospital. Today, he escorted Ciancaglini's widow at the funeral.
In other news, and tragic news it is, a parent's night...
TGI Fridays. Take one.
Hey, Henderson, you call that barbecuing? What are those, weenies? You obviously haven't heard of the barbecued bacchanalia at TGI Fridays. Barbecued wings, steak, Aussie, tasty barbecued chicken and ribs, or a combo of both. Say, Henderson, speaking of weenies, where'd you get that mutt?
Fridays down-home barbecue. Everyone looks forward to Fridays.
The Cadillac DeVille has the safety answers. An anti-lock braking system, advanced airbag technology, and a 200-horsepower V8. DeVille also has the financial answers. Now you can receive a $3,000 special bonus from Cadillac when you purchase a new 1993 DeVille. And the $3,000 bonus on the Cadillac DeVille makes a safe investment even safer.
This is KYW-TV, Philadelphia. This is the news tonight with Jennifer Ward and Bruce Hamilton. First weather with David Rogers and Yuki Washington on sports. And now, the news tonight.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Ward. Bruce Hamilton has the night off. Our top story tonight, surprising revelations about an alleged mob hit the day the victim is buried. A funeral for Michael Ciancaglini was held in South Philadelphia while a possible Jersey link to the bloody deed is announced. KYW3's Robin McIntosh reports.
Funeral services were held today for 31-year-old Michael Ciancaglini, the reputed mobster gunned down last week on a South Philadelphia street corner.
I expect
the killings and shootings to continue until one side emerges victorious.
Today, only hours after the Ciancaglini funeral, New Jersey State Police Superintendent Justin Dentino dropped a bomb of his own. Philadelphia police are still searching for the triggerman who gunned down Michael Ciancaglini. In the meantime, here in South Jersey, state police say they may have intercepted a second hit team before they could reach their intended targets. According to Dentino, who spoke to a Rotary Club meeting in Camden this afternoon, only hours before the Ciancaglini hit, a state police trooper pulled over a car on Route 295 for a traffic stop. Inside, he found 2 sets of rubber gloves and ski masks, a shotgun, and 2 9mm handguns.
While they were not loaded, there was clips with Teflon-coated hollow point bullets that can pierce a bulletproof vest.
Arrested were the driver, 25-year-old Herbert Keller of Ben Salem, Bucks County, and his passenger, 27-year-old Sergio Battaglia. According to police, Battaglia is the former vice president of Battaglia Ford in Hamilton, New Jersey.
There's no doubt in my mind that these 2 individuals were part of the hit team that was sent out that day to either participate in the shooting of Merlino and Ciancaglini or other dissidents within that group.
Police say Battaglia and Keller were released from jail yesterday after being charged with weapons violations. They've not been charged in connection with the Ciancaglini hit, but police say they've been looking into the Battaglia connection since the shooting. The suspected getaway car, this white Ford, was set on fire by the fleeing Ciancaglini gunmen. It was reported stolen. Police traced its ownership to Battaglia Ford. As for the man Dentino thinks is behind it all, reputed mob boss John Stanfa.
I can tell you that John Stanfa will be arrested at some point by the FBI, the Philadelphia Police, the New Jersey State Police, a combination thereof, if not for these shootings, for some other crimes, providing that his own membership doesn't get to him before we do.
Today, the latest victims of the ongoing mob war left the Epiphany Church. Joseph Merlino, still limping with a cane after being shot in the leg, and Michael Ciancaglini. He was headed for a South Jersey cemetery, and police don't think he'll be the last. In South Philadelphia, Robin McIntosh, The News Tonight.
What does Battaglia Ford have to say about all this? KYW3's Joyce Evans spoke to the owner of the dealership just a few minutes ago. Anthony Battaglia says they are cooperating with investigators, but no authority ever asked about a possible connection between the Ciancaglini hit and Sergio Battaglia, or Sergio's connection with the dealership. They only asked about the stolen car. Anthony Battaglia is Sergio's brother. He says Sergio was a salesman there who left earlier this year. They deny any affiliation with mob figures anywhere. A baby lies near death after falling.
You're mentally. She's very intelligent. For somebody her age, you just think she's older. But she's just a little girl. You know, if you have anything at all that you would know about her, or anything that you think would help us, please, you know, please.
Coming up, a note documents the deeply troubled state of mind of a White House attorney who took his own life. Michael Ciancaglini is buried, and there is new information about who might have orchestrated the mob hit.
Saturn recalls almost all of the cars it has ever built. We'll tell you why. And the Phillies return to action against Montreal. They make a trade also for a Chicago pitcher. That's all coming up next on the 10 o'clock news.
Hi, I'm Jim Palmer. Thinking about refinancing your home? Even if you've been late on some payments in the past, you can still refinance your first mortgage and get today's low rates at the Money Store. Because the Money Store looks at your total credit picture. They won't automatically disqualify you for some late payments. And you can apply by phone with no application fee. So even if you've been late on some payments, you can still refinance your first mortgage. Call the Money Store at 1-800-LOAN-YES. That's 1-800-LOAN-YES.
Have you ever tasted Crystal Pepsi?
No.
Definitely different than traditional Pepsi. What do you think? America's waiting. It has a cleaner flavor. What do you think? No, it's not syrupy. We're still waiting, Brandon. Refreshing. Okay, Brandon. What do you think?
How about it? It tastes real good.
Crystal Pepsi is clearly uniquely something else entirely. Find out for yourself. Look in this week's paper for a 55-cent off coupon and try it.
What are you think?
Jeans,
jeans, and more jeans. Where do you get the best selection of name brand jeans for under $15?
Only at Ross.
Yo, I'm in the house. That's where the TV is.
Sinbad is coming to Fox.
And now, the Delaware Valley's only primetime news hour, honored by the Associated Press as the best newscast in Pennsylvania, the 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, I'm Lee McCarthy.
And I'm Jill Chernikoff. Here's what's happening. This should have been a day to celebrate for President Clinton. His budget was signed into law, and his Supreme Court nominee was sworn in. But both events were overshadowed by a note written by his longtime friend Vincent Foster. The note was written before the White House lawyer committed suicide. It is filled with sharp criticisms and accusations. In the note released today by federal investigators, Vince Foster was bitter about life in Washington, and in particular, the criticism that he received surrounding the White House travel office. He wrote, "I was not meant for the job or spotlight of public life in Washington." He added, "Here, ruining people is considered sport." This was the White House's reaction.
It's most of all a sad commentary on Washington.
Foster's body was found July 20th in Fort Marcy National Park. The note was found 6 days later in his Washington office, but investigators aren't sure when it was written. Foster's wife, Lisa, told her husband to start writing things down that were bothering him. The note was found in 24 pieces. Foster was sharply critical of the Wall Street Journal. He said the editors, quote, "lie without consequence," end quote. He also said no one at the White House did anything wrong in the travel office scandal. Of himself, he wrote, "I did not knowingly violate any law or standard of conduct. I made mistakes from ignorance, inexperience, and overwork." Foster also wrote that the public will never believe the innocence of the Clintons and their loyal staff. Investigators say Foster took his first dose of an antidepressant drug the night before he killed himself.
With the stroke of his pen, President Clinton today signed his controversial economic package into law. The much compromised plan is designed to reduce the federal budget deficit by almost $500 billion over the next 5 years. No Republicans voted for the package, and none was invited to the signing ceremony at the White House. Mr. Clinton said his plan was unfairly criticized because it called for more government spending for new projects.
For 5 months, the American people heard too little about the real debate and too much from those who oversimplified and often downright misrepresented the questions of tax increases and spending cuts because they had narrow economic or political or personal reasons to do so.
The president's tax law creates 2 new tax rates affecting people who have incomes greater than $115,000 a year. The highest rate of almost 40% affects taxable income over $250,000 a year. Starting October 1st, there will be an additional 4.3 cents a tax on each gallon of gasoline. Not all of the changes involve a tax increase. The luxury tax on yachts, furs, and jewels is retroactively repealed to last January, and families with incomes under $25,000 are eligible for some tax credits.
Determining whether the new tax law is good news or bad news for you requires doing a bit of homework. But the tax law's complexity means that business will be booming for accountants. Victor Livingston explains.
Ask a half-dozen accountants about the new Clinton tax bill and you'll get a dozen opinions.
Well, one thing I noticed that I didn't like about it was it's retroactive to January 1st.
It's going to affect everyone. So I think people should consult their tax advisor instead of worrying that their taxes are going up.
This much is as certain as death and taxes. The new tax law adds to tax complexity, and that will be keeping accountants plenty busy as fewer taxpayers dare to file their own.
This is all more taxation by complexation, and people who are marginal will find it more and more difficult to do their own tax returns.
At the extremes, the Clinton tax bill is understandable. Generally, the very rich, people making over $200,000 a year, will pay more, and the poor will benefit by an expansion of the so-called earned income tax credit. It's when it comes to the rest of us that things get murky, and some accountants are concerned that we could feel a negative impact if this bill stymies economic growth.
The rest of us escaped the direct tax, But are we going to get an indirect tax from increased unemployment, from a slower economy?
The accountant fears the answer is yes, because he believes the nation's economic engines are fueled by spending and investment. Upper-income Americans do much of the spending. Corporations do much of the investment in new production capacity and jobs. Both face higher tax rates under the new law. It does not include Clinton's original proposal to give business and investment tax credit.
I mean, there are a few elements of encouragement, like the capital gains break that's supposed to be to help new businesses, but it's so small. I mean, and there's so many businesses that are eliminated.
With big business facing higher taxes, the accountant fears the captains of industry will make up for it by further cutting payrolls, worsening the nation's still cloudy employment picture. Victor Livingston, the 10 o'clock news.
Some of the nation's top economists agree the new tax package will cause the U.S. economy to slow down again in 1994. The newsletter Blue Chip Economic Indicators reported today that economic growth will slump next year after a brief recovery in late '93. The survey of 51 analysts revealed that many are uncertain about the deficit reduction and tax package. They say that higher taxes will hamper business spending and hiring.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been sworn in as the 107th Justice of the Supreme Court.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Ginsburg is the second woman to sit on the high court. In a voice cracking with emotion, she told a White House crowd of friends and family that she would try in every way to justify President Clinton's faith in her.
Times are changing. The president made that clear by appointing me, and just last week, naming 5 other women to Article III courts. 6 of his total of 14 federal bench nominees thus far are women.
Earlier, Ginsburg took the oath in a private ceremony at the Supreme Court. Ginsburg is a strong believer in a woman's right to choose abortion. She is expected to be especially tough on criminals.
A senior White House official has hinted that slain diplomat Fred Woodruff was actually a CIA agent. Woodruff was shot Sunday in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. Early reports indicated he was a regional affairs officer with the U.S. Embassy. But a White House spokesperson said, on condition of anonymity, that the director of the CIA is bringing the body back to the U.S. and, quote, that speaks for itself.
Authorities have released new information tonight on the alleged mob shooting in South Philadelphia last week. It comes on the day the victim of that shooting was buried. Michael Ciancaglini was laid to rest today, and as Rich Noonan reports, many of his associates are making life and death decisions about their futures.
30-year-old Michael Ciancaglini leaves behind 3 young children and a grieving wife. He was shot in the heart last week during a mob hit. His best friend, Joey Merlino, survived. He took 2 bullets in the rear end as he ran for his life. At this morning's viewing and funeral for Ciancaglini, Merlino was not at all camera shy. He stood in front of the funeral home as if to say, I'm still here, they didn't get me. Merlino has also maintained his bravado. Listen to his response when we asked him to comment on the shooting. Merlino will have to be a tough guy to survive the coming months, according to law enforcement sources who say Merlino and his young mob associates were challenging the authority of mob boss John Stanfa, and Stanfa may have ordered the hit, which cost Michael Ciancaglini his life.
It reached a point where something had to be done.
Inquirer reporter George Anastasia authored a book about the Philadelphia mob. He, like others, watched the spectacle in South Philadelphia today. There were 3 cars filled with flowers. The family insisted on only black limousines. And the Church of the Epiphany at 11th and Jackson. It's the same place of worship where former mob boss Angelo Bruno was eulogized in 1980. The Bruno killing by the Scarfo faction of the mob set off a bloody mob war. Watching Joey Merlino run the show today, one couldn't help but wonder if another war is coming.
It's a lot, I think, a lot like in 1980 after Bruno got hit and nobody knew where the shots were coming from and where the next shots were going to come from. And I think you can draw some similarities there.
Law enforcement officials say the future of the Philadelphia mob will be more clear the next time mafia hitmen strike. Tonight, mob leader John Stanfa may be looking over his shoulder, and his young rival Joey Merlino may find out just how much support he really has. Law enforcement officials hope some innocent person isn't caught in the middle when the bullets start flying the next time. In South Philadelphia, Rich Noonan, the 10 o'clock news.
New Jersey State Police say organized crime boss John Stanfa of Medford was behind the alleged mob hit of Michael Ciancaglini, and a former South Jersey car salesman was also in on the plot. Steve Coleman has the latest.
It is this car that provides the link in the latest development in the Ciancaglini murder investigation. Police say this was the getaway vehicle used by two gunmen who later set it on fire. And according to New Jersey State Police Superintendent Justin Dentino, they were acting under the orders of reputed mafia kingpin John Stanfa. Today, they announced they had arrested 26-year-old Sergio Battaglia and Herbert Keller on weapons charges while they were traveling down Interstate 295. That happened on Thursday. Battaglia is the brother of the man who owns this Ford dealership in Hamilton, New Jersey, where employees say that any connection between the mob and the Ford dealership is ludicrous.
And any implication Mr. Battaglia would have any, Tony Battaglia would have any kind of connections with anyone who knows him or has been here would be ludicrous. We wouldn't have been struggling and working as hard as we have.
But it is this dealership from where the Ford originally came from. It had been loaned to a Battaglia Ford customer. On Thursday, the day of the murder, the man reported it stolen in Philadelphia.
Tonight, officials at Battaglia Ford want to make it clear that the relationship between Sergio Battaglia and his brother's dealership was a short-lived one. Contrary to the state police, they say Sergio was never a vice president here, but a salesman, and that for only a brief time. Nonetheless, the news of his arrest and its possible connection to the murder of Michael Ciancaglini hit this dealership like a shockwave.
I think he's a decent young man from my experience with him, and I'm just, very shocked and surprised at the allegation.
Police theorize that Sergio Battaglia and Herbert Keller were a backup team to the two men who assassinated Michael Ciancaglini and wounded Joey Merlino. If that is true, then the arrest of Battaglia on Thursday on weapons charges may have been the only thing preventing the former car salesman from taking part in a murder. Tonight, police say there will be more arrests in this case, and that the South Jersey connections revealed today are only the tip of the iceberg. In Hamilton, New Jersey, Steve Coleman, the 10 o'clock news.
Coming up, a judge will now decide whether or not